Hey, thanks for checking out this episode of the We Don't Know Sports podcast. You just got Chad the Mark and Canadian Biggie. We're going to rock and roll and talk about the best Super Bowls, at least to us, and probably get into some other nonsense. So stick around for the ride. This is the We Don't Know Sports podcast. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the We Don't Know Sports podcast. We got a twosome for you as Mongo is dealing with sick kids and Mr. Brown died. He's coming back resurrected as a new character eventually, but it's just me and Canadian Biggie, or is it just Big? I don't know. What happened last week?
Oh, right now it's just Biggie, my Canadian following, my heritage, my upbringing. We have a bit of a separation over maple syrup and how nice you're allowed to be.
You drew some lines in the sand. You got very mad at Canada because for no reason other than you were looking at betting odds from a Canadian website and then decided to talk about how the American shield is the only reason why Canada has nice things.
Yeah, I feel like if they were on an island by themselves without the big old USA, you wouldn't hear, oh, it's Canadian nice. I don't know. I had an issue with that. Plus, I didn't like the odds on their bet. It was Canadian based site.
Low. Your odds were on Taylor Swift and Kelsey
getting married.
Yeah. Or at least
it was only like a 10-1.
Yeah, it should be a lot higher than that. There's no way that's happening.
No
way it's happening. Did you hear Taylor selling one of her jets?
I did not.
How nice is it to be able to sell one of your jets?
Yeah. Here's the thing I will say about Taylor Swift. Yes,
we're not going to talk about this all show.
One of her jets, but for a person who's she's probably a billionaire. I don't know.
She's close to it.
Like the people who do her stage setup, her truck drivers, like she gives them $100,000 bonuses just for doing she gives the wealth out to the normal person, which is appreciated.
Did you see where some people were being like, yeah, you know who owns, I'm just going to ask you how they ask people, you know who owns all Taylor Swift's music, don't you?
George Soros.
Right. But that's
when she became political.
Well, that's when she started re-recording all her songs because she wanted to own it. So, don't give me the cabal conspiracy on Taylor Swift about that. You might be able to do it on other things, but not that.
Speaking of things that are topical right now, we're talking about who owns that music. Who first signed Taylor Swift?
I brought that up today with some buddies. It was rest in peace, Big Toby Keith.
Yep.
Machine Records.
Yes.
And Toby Keith, I'm starting to feel mortality, Biggie. He was 62 years old, but didn't he always seem like he was 10 foot tall and bulletproof?
He did. He did it at 62 with stomach cancer. I still felt like he was 45, getting ready to retire from the Army infantry. He was just that guy.
He was a big Oklahoma boy. He tried to play in the NFL. I think he played at least semi-pro. But
here's the thing about Toby Keith that I've always loved, whether you love his music or country music in general. His family was an Army family. Toby Keith had his pinky cut off because he was working an oil field. He had an accident.
So is it like a Ronnie Lott thing?
Well, he could still play guitar without his pinky. Go look it up.
That's pretty.
He was a true Oklahoma oil field boy. There's a thing that's really funny, and this is only for OU fans or
Boomer Sooner
fans. So now Toby Keith is a huge Boomer Sooner fan, right?
OU fan. I've seen him on side. He's like Jim Ross down there.
But what is one of his great songs?
Should have been a cowboy.
Should have learned to rope and ride. Well, here's the thing. Oklahoma State are the Cowboys, but Toby Keith was a big OU guy. So there was a short period where they wouldn't play that song after a win. They went back to it. What I'm getting at is that we play country roads. It's West Virginia. That's what we would play. Should have been a cowboy is that song for them.
For OU?
Yes.
Really?
No. Oklahoma State.
Okay. I was like,
but he's an OU guy, and that's why there's something.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. That's a good dig to the opposing team. Like you just got beat by Mullet Mike Gundy, and you're walking out of the tunnel, and everybody's saying, should have been a cowboy. And they weren't. You decided to be a Baylor Bear, you dumbass, and now look what you get. That's great. I want to talk more about Toby Keith for a second. We're going to talk about Super Bowl shit for sure because the Super Bowl just happened. We're recording before the Super Bowl happened, but for everyone listening, the Super Bowl just happened last night. But Toby Keith, the songbook, it's it's very underrated, and I think everyone knows he's famous for those patriotic songs, and it was
Well, he almost got backlash for, he was only trying to capitalize on war. Which,
right, like
if
Alan
if you
Jackson
know
doing
his
the
background, where he's from,
do your
he was a patriot.
Alan Jackson got in trouble for the same thing about
Yep.
the where were you? Yeah,
When the world stopped turning.
all I remember is the South Park doing Alan Jackson, the Ladder to Heaven. If anybody knows that episode, that's a great one.
I've not seen that episode, but did you know that Alan Jackson, the first time he sang that song, "Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning," in front of people, was at the award show?
Really?
Yeah.
Huh? He's not doing good.
No.
They have to prop him up. And then he sing a song about being propped up by the jukebox.
Yes.
But no, I mean, with all respect to Alan Jackson, one of the greatest country music performers of all time, he even though all he does is just stand up there with a guitar. Sometimes if you're good, that's all you need to do. But I've heard they kind of like
It worked for George Strait.
they got to like prop him up like with a device or something.
Yeah.
Because he can't really stand on his own very long.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got some
that's sad.
major health issues.
But he's got to be over 62. He's got to be older than Toby Keith.
Yeah, he is.
So do you have some favorite Toby Keith songs?
I love Beer for My Horses with Willie Nelson.
The video is great.
Yep.
Toby Keith never forgot the art of the music video. That was a good one. Of course, the patriotic songs like American Soldier.
We'll put a boot in your ass.
Yeah, that's great. The ones I love this bar. That's great. The video for that's amazing.
My two favorites outside of what we just talked about are Being a Man Who's Now 42. What do you think I'm going for?
How do you like me now? I don't know. What is it?
No, that was
Red
one.
Solo Cup. You
No. How do you like me now was one, because it reminds me of high school. Those people thought they were better than you. And the other one is I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was.
And everyone just quit listening after we sang Toby Keith songs for 20 minutes. Holy shit. Let's bring it back. I don't know if I want to. That was amazing. I forgot how many good songs he has. And I don't care what anybody says. Red Solo Cup, it got a little out of control for like a year. But if I hear it now, I'm probably going through the whole song if I'm in a good mood.
Yep.
Is it true that the solo cups have measurements on it, or is that just bullshit?
No, that's true.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. But, it's like one of those things.
What the ridges are for.
It's like I didn't learn that until I learned that, Taylor Swift was signed by Toby Keith, I guess.
It's it's a good little trip down memory lane. Yeah, memory lane.
Yeah. We were talking earlier about halftime shows of the Super Bowl, and you don't really have that country vibe anymore. But like we went back, it was like 93 or 92, and it was like Clint Black and Tanya Tucker and the Judds.
So when we're talking about that, I am blown away that from like say 91, 92-ish to 97, we didn't have a Garth Brooks halftime show.
And we've never had a Garth Brooks halftime show.
That just blows me away, because he was the biggest thing in country music at a time when country music was actually allowed to do the halftime show.
But I think, if I'm not mistaken, if you're performing at the Super Bowl, you pay to do that, right? Like it's not a free ride.
No, I thought that the NFL paid you to be there.
No, because like the publicity you get, like why would you do it for free if you're the NFL? Like you should be saying, like, if you want to perform here, you got to set it.
The NFL accepts bids.
I don't know how it works. I don't act like I know but I feel like I've heard stories. I don't know. We need to fact check that one for sure.
Yeah.
But I am not entirely sure. But if you were Garth Brooks in the 90s, if that's the case, you don't need the Super Bowl.
No.
I remember when he came to Charleston and did 4 sold out shows, and I went to the first one, but he lip synced on the last 2. But the last 2 were the first ones that went on sale. So everybody had to wait in the line and buy those tickets. They got the weekend show. I went on the Thursday night show. It was the first one, but the people that paid big dollar, because they only announced one show, it sold out. Then they did a second show, sold out. Hell, let's do a Friday show, sold out. We can do Thursday, but you can only sing so many times before your voice gives out. So people were a little miffed. because they were the ones waiting out in the cold, standing in line. This is before the internet, kids. You actually had to show up to they call it the box office. Is that the term?
Yeah, those are the people who, when the tickets will come out, the new game will come out, they were set up in line overnight. You might have a tent in front of the store.
Used to do that shit for college football on PlayStation 2 back in the day.
Yep.
It came out Tuesday at midnight. But so my point is Garth never really had to do the Super Bowl. But, I guess in the same token, you wouldn't say Michael Jackson would have to do the Super Bowl, but he did. And we were talking about it earlier. That was one that, to me, especially the age we were at, that was the first like quote unquote iconic halftime performance.
Dude, the Stars and the Stripes, Whitney Houston killed the national anthem, Fly Over, that Pasadena, Sunny, amazing.
It was good. And you had the little Michael Jackson clones popping out of the four corners because you didn't really have the big jumbotrons. It's so weird to go back and watch old games and they don't have these massive screens. It's just fans.
Yeah. Yeah. It's much more authentic feeling when you look at something from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s than you get from the last 10 years.
That's like, I love wrestling, man. And you see wrestling shows and everybody used to have posters and signs and all that. Now everybody just has their phone.
Yeah. Well, that was the greatest part of the Attitude Era, late 90s, early 2000s, were the signs.
It was great. My favorite wrestling sign of all time was someone had a sign that said, Bill Goldberg eats corn on the cob the long way. And they were in the front row, so it was very evident. But back to the Super Bowl halftime performances. So do you have a favorite? Is there one, or do you have a hated one? Do we want to talk about the elephant in the room? Do we want to talk about Tittygate?
Who want my booby back, booby back, booby back?
That's the most famous one, right? Like everybody knows that happened.
See, that one, it sticks out there. Everyone knows it happened. To me, my favorite halftime show, nostalgia. I'm in my early 40s. A couple years ago in LA, Eminem, Snoop, Dre, Mary J. Blige,
50 Cent.
50 Cent.
That was
50 Cent. He was like a $2 bill on that day.
Is he fat or jacked?
He was upside down, and I couldn't do that. So I'll say he's jacked, but I don't know. I thought he was fat.
You remember he did a movie and lost a bunch of weight and got he didn't even look like himself. I wonder if he just lost all his fat and he either came back and got fat or he just learned he got on the trend and just got jacked. I don't know, because he was upside down. I couldn't really tell.
I'm going to give him credit for being jacked because I always felt like P. Diddy was very feminine, and 50 Cent told us he was very feminine. And now through the years, we've learned 50 Cent was right. So 50 Cent was jacked and not fat.
I'll go with that. I don't want to say anything that he doesn't want me to say anyway. So I'll say whatever he says.
Gotcha.
But that was a good one. I don't know if I put that in the top, but I think that was the one I was probably the most excited for. You know what I mean? Like the anticipation, and it kind of lived up to it. The one I wasn't really excited for, but I thought over delivered was the Prince halftime show.
Yeah, Mongo was a big fan of that one. Of course, the Bears ended up losing that Super Bowl, but we talk about the different things that could happen at halftime when you have wardrobe malfunction. Well, that was planned ahead of time. Having Prince sing Purple Rain in the rain in Miami at halftime, you can't plan that.
Nah, it still didn't say from the game. We're going to talk about worst games and best games before we get off this show for sure when it comes to the Super Bowl. That was a shit show, but we'll take the rain because it gave us Prince singing Purple Rain in the rain. And that was a hell of a moment. But, go ahead.
Well, just one of my other personal favorites as a Patriots fan is Bono singing, and he flops open, and it's got the stars and stripes.
Well, the other thing that was cool about that one, well, you got to appreciate it because it's the first title the Patriots win, you bastard. But then it's the 9/11 year, and they do the memorial with the screen in the background, and the names are just scrolling, and they kind of have the heart-shaped stage. It was good. And they had the crowd was in the pit. It was kind of like a real concert. I'm not a huge U2 fan, but I would go see them at the Las Vegas Sphere. They have a residency out there right now.
Yeah, if I were to go to Vegas, that would be definitely on my list. One of the first things I would do.
Would you believe me if I told you I watched like 30 minutes of the Grammys the other night?
No.
It was more like curiosity. Like I couldn't tell you who was nominated for a lot of things or even who half these people were.
I saw Killer Mike got arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For I guess he slapped somebody, like
Apparently.
open hand slap.
I don't know. All I saw was the tail end of it.
He seems
Typical
like
video.
such a nice guy, Killer Mike.
Yeah.
Like he wouldn't do anything like that.
And then I saw there was an uproar because somebody's been nominated a bunch of times, but has never won.
Who's that?
Really, it's a hip hop artist.
I don't know.
We'll have to look that one up.
I do know Miley Cyrus won a Grammy for the first time ever.
Oh, I saw that, and everybody said she shaded her dad because she thanked her mom and somebody else, but not her dad.
I don't know. Maybe there's some hostility there, but
you know what, Miley? If it wasn't for your dad and the achy breaky heart, no one would ever know who you were. So thank your dad.
Yeah, that definitely had something to do with it. But the last thing I'll say, hopefully, about Taylor Swift tonight is, she won Grammys, and I guess she got her 13th, and that's her lucky number. And she announced a new album, and Kelsey wasn't there, and everybody's like, "Where's your boyfriend at?" And he's like, he's trying to win a trophy too, So I don't know. We'll see.
I saw where people were trying to shade her because she took it from Celine Dion and they didn't think they showed her enough respect. But what they don't know is her and Celine are like deep, godly friends and all this.
I'm tired of just the hate. I don't understand it. I don't know. I was talking to somebody about this at work where they're like, I can't even watch a game because they showed Taylor Swift so much. And like you go look and people have done the numbers, and it's like Taylor Swift was shown 12 seconds on television for the entire game. And that ruined the experience for you.
I don't have an issue with her being on it. My issue is with the NFL trying to say, "Ooh, Taylor Swift's there. How can we benefit from this when you already print your own money?"
I mean, well, they benefited $400 million or whatever they said. So.
Yeah, well, you got people who, for the Super Bowl, I saw this online. They're printing shirts and whatever. It says, "I'm rooting for Taylor's boyfriend."
Yeah, I mean, but that's what happens when you bring in a new fan base. That's why I was asking the Chiefs fans. How do you feel if you're a diehard? Well, you gotta make elbow room for all these bandwagon jumpers that are coming out of the woodwork, and some of it's going to be just because you're winning, right? Like you've been winning and winning. You're a Patriots fan. I guarantee you, the first Super Bowl, the amount of people you knew that was a Patriot fan versus what it was in 2020 was not the same.
The difference from 2000, 2001 to 2010, 2012, complete 180.
Yeah. And, that's just the territory. But then you throw in, this generation's version of the pop megastar, and it's going to inflate that a little bit. But all right, so back to music halftime shows. The Janet Jackson Timberlake one, probably the most famous. And the performance was fine, but I do want to say that it was 100% staged. And the only thing that Janet Jackson should have done better is learn how to handle the fallout, because JT slid away from that into a career with a meteoric rise, and Janet Jackson pretty much fell off the face of the earth after that.
Her PR department has not been rehired.
Nah, she didn't do anything else after that. They should do a reunion Super Bowl halftime of those two.
Bring back Beyonce and turn the lights out.
It'd be on a 15-second delay, but that's all right. We'll watch it. But
well, that's why we got really crappy acts for a few years after that, was because it had to be PC.
Yeah, you started getting the Paul McCartney, the Who, the Bruce Springsteen,
the second Paul McCartney, because the real one died 45 years ago.
Which one's the Sir Paul McCartney?
We're calling him the second one.
Okay, so he's the one there was the Sir. He was the one that got knighted. So that's a rabbit hole I'm not ready to go down tonight.
Well, it's just in another universe, when we do tackle this, remember, Beatles made music telling you that Paul McCartney was dead and the second Paul McCartney was in place.
Is John Lennon still alive?
John Lennon is a hologram, so he is still alive.
Well, everybody's a hologram now. Remember when you were talking about the West Coast rapper halftime show? Well, it was like Death Row with Eminem, right?
Yep.
So how many times wasn't there prop bets about, is Tupac going to be part of it?
Yes.
And like there was even people thinking the real Tupac, there was bet lines that you could like resurrected Tupac was going to show up. We thought you and I think both legitimately thought there'd be like a hologram.
Yes. I 110% thought they'd do a hologram just to win, whether it be for nostalgia or a prop bet, that they would put him in a part of it.
Yeah, and I was a little disappointed it didn't happen, but the show was so good, and honestly, they packed so much in there. And I think it's a little bit of recency bias. But you know, again, some of the other good ones we mentioned. The worst one to me, I like the Black Eyed Peas.
Wasn't any good.
Mongo really liked Bruno Mars, and I don't even remember that performance.
No, he did really good.
I
He
mean,
did really good. It was the Super Bowl Broncos, Seahawks, New York, MetLife Stadium, the cold one.
Okay. Yeah, they don't like going to New York if they don't have to, but man, that market, you kind of got to.
Well, that's the thing. Like the Bills are building a new stadium. If you get a new stadium, you're supposed to get a Super Bowl. No, if you look at the rotation,
The Bills are not getting a new
now that they've finally taken it to Vegas. To be perfectly honest with you, Vegas should host Super Bowl every year.
I mean, they could. I mean, they have the hotel space is the biggest thing, and Vegas has more hotel space per capita than anywhere else on the planet.
They can handle any event. Vegas, Miami, Houston, Pasadena, New Orleans. Those are like your rotation.
They need to do it like the old BCS setup back in the day.
Yep.
Just have like 4 rotations. Sorry, Jacksonville. Nobody wants to go there.
Yeah.
What about Atlanta? Do they get one?
Yeah, Atlanta gets one.
What about when Tennessee gets a new stadium?
Nope.
Really? Nashville?
Unless no, they're doing a nice retractable roof. They'll get one.
I mean, that you know,
anymore they want to make the Super Bowl a game played in a dome.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're seeing all the issues that came out, you know, during the practice week about the field conditions, and you know, one of them's like in standing water, and the other one's an indoor practice facility that's beautiful. So, you know, you got to fix that problem if you're going to keep it in Vegas, or is that just the Raiders being salty with the Chiefs?
You give Mark Davis a chance, he's going to screw his competition.
He's going to screw up his barber, but for life.
Like Mark Davis.
Like you can get anybody a celebrity haircut, like you advertise that. But if you said like, yeah, I give Mark Davis his haircuts, and then like, I don't know why I'm not making any money.
Well, I have 2 things on my mind when you say Mark Davis's haircut. First day of Black History Month, and they give Travis Kelce credit for the fade.
Yeah,
do you see that?
What was that about?
What was that? Dumb.
Who was giving him credit for the fade?
He was on the cover of like
a magazine or something.
Yep.
Oh, did you see who's
because they asked him about it at Media Day on Monday.
What did he say?
Well, he's like, you know, it's dumb. It's not me. I don't know why they gave me credit, blah, blah, blah. And it isn't. It's crazy. Because he's the hot thing right now.
Why do we try to hate people that are successful? Why is that our thing?
We build them up till they're really successful, and then we want to tear them down.
Right. I've been guilty.
It's the American way.
I've been guilty of that. I think we all are. But it's like we're really like, what's wrong with the same people that are hating on Travis Kelce are the same ones that watched Saturday Night Live last year and was like, damn, he killed it on there.
Yep.
Yeah, but I don't like him. He's a son of a bitch.
Yeah.
He's not as good of a tight end as Gronk or just enjoy. He's playing.
Enjoy what he gives you.
Yeah, that's all.
He's having an amazing playoff run. There is an outside chance, because quarterbacks always get MVP, that Kelce does an 11 catch, 112-yard, 2-touchdown game, wins MVP, kisses Taylor Swift, who is a 6, maybe a 7 with the money, you know,
not
and walks
scale.
off the field.
Not Mongo scale.
Mongo scale.
Are you going to put money on the proposal odds?
No.
It's there's no.
I will say this, though. I think that if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, there is a chance that opening day next year, Mahomes is your starting QB. Kelce and Reed are both retired.
They asked Reed about it, and he was like, nah, I don't want to talk about it right now. But I don't know. I mean, you got a good thing going. It's hard to walk away from that. Ask your boy Bill Belichick, who can't find a job now. You know, you don't want to leave when it's good, because you want to
get addicted to it.
I'd be addicted to winning. Could you imagine if it'd be like being addicted to money. Like every day you go to the mailbox and there's like $100,000 in there. You're going to go every damn day.
Yes.
You're not going to stop. It's like, well, I don't want to walk to the mailbox today. It's cold outside, but there's $100,000 in there. So I'm going to get off my ass and go. You got Patrick Mahomes, who people were already, rightfully so, saying that he is potentially the greatest quarterback of all time. Potentially.
He got a long way to go, but I've told you this before. If he stays healthy and he doesn't retire as that, it would be a disappointment.
But it goes back to the Reed, Mahomes, Brady, Belichick thing. Like, I think I said, I'm taking the Chiefs forever to win as long as Reed is there. But I don't know how he's going to do without him, because we've only seen Mahomes with Andy Reid. We've seen him without Eric Bieniemy, and that took a dive back.
Took all the way to the playoffs to really get anything. Well, they've been off all year on offense. Mahomes' numbers have not been as good when you look at without Bieniemy. We've talked about this before, and you guys were the opposite of me, you and the deceased Mr. Brown, where I said, if you don't have that guy to rein you back in, which is an Andy Reid or an Eric Bieniemy, what do you become? So I'm really curious. I'd like to see Reid continue to coach. He's only 65, which feels weird to say only 65, but another 5 years of him and Mahomes.
Yeah,
they've went to the championship game six straight years.
He's not Nick Saban. You know, his health is a little different. And he is the guy that's don't mind if I do at any buffet, right? Like that's Andy Reid. And you know, it's funny and we laugh about it.
He's had a lot of issues in his family too. One son passed away, one son got in legal trouble.
Yeah, man. I forgot all about that stuff. It's like him and Tony Dungy there for a minute. It was just sad stories all the way around.
Yeah.
It was a dark days. But I like Andy Reid. I don't know how anybody could not like him.
No.
And you know, we don't know if the Chiefs are winning the Super Bowl or not, but you know, I think it's safe to expect as long as Reed's there, they're going to be in the conversation until they're not. But the one thing I wanted to ask you, because I know this publication laid off a bunch of people left and right. Did you see who's in the SI swimsuit issue coming out this month?
I have not.
Brittany Mahomes.
No way.
Is that going to move the needle for Sports Illustrated?
It might, just because she's attached to Patrick and she is a pretty lady.
I mean, why not?
Well, she got a nice body.
People are going to hate her for this. You know what I mean? It's like, she just wants attention.
Yeah.
But like, people are asking her to do it. You know, it's not like she's picking up the phone like, Sports Illustrated, let me in.
Well, I'm sure what happened. Like, I watched the Netflix deal with the quarterbacks, and
that's such a
I guarantee the offer came in. She looked at it. She talked to Patrick, and he's like, you know what, baby, go for it. You're beautiful. Go for it.
We hate on this girl who was high school sweetheart with Patrick Mahomes, who looked like he was 12 when he was 18.
Yep.
And has been with him every step of the way. And people were legit like, I hate that bitch.
It's
What's wrong with us?
She supported him.
You can hate the brother. You can hate the brother.
Days when his biggest and best opportunity was go to Texas Tech. It's not like he was getting recruited to the top program in the country. And now that he's made it and he's the league MVP and he has stayed loyal to the woman who he first loved, we hate her. She's a bitch.
Yeah, I know. Look at her. Like,
how dare her and Taylor have a handshake?
That's the American dream right there. Yeah. I can't knock him for that. Now, if you want to talk about Senior and his DUIs and
bitch, I'm gonna tell you what. If you put me in a booth with Brittany, Taylor, and Jackson, I'd drink and drive on the way home too.
You're damn right. It'd be like the Wolf of Wall Street scene, driving around, crashing into the
20 qualities a day.
The lose. It's I don't know. I don't know. But to remind everybody, if you're listening after the Super Bowl here, we both think the Chiefs are going to win, but we like the Niners. We want the Niners to win. So, you know, we spent all this time talking about the Chiefs, but our hearts of the Niners. I'd like to see a change. Parity in the NFL is always good. And don't you feel kind of bad for Kyle Shanahan? Like, I hope there's not another tragic thing that happens where they blow a Super Bowl or something.
Up 28-3.
Up
like 20-10.
Because like, let's talk about Super Bowls, right? Like that 28-3, a lot of people consider it to be the greatest Super Bowl of all time. But it sucks if you're Shanahan and you're associated to the other side. Like, you're never going to live that down until you get another one. Like, that's how it's got to be.
Well, that's the thing, too. Well, Dan Quinn on the other side of it, too, blowing the 28-3 lead. But I just want to say one thing before we move on from talking about this game. It's 28-12. Dante Hightower, same guy who one-arm stopped Marshawn Lynch at the 2-yard line, is the reason that game was possible for the Patriots to make comeback. Down 28-12, flows through who was the Falcons running back at that time? They were 24, Freeman.
It was Donta
Yeah.
Freeman,
Uh,
Devontae Freeman.
Devontae Freeman. He hits Matt Ryan, sack fumble at 28-12 with like 11 minutes left in the fourth. Without that particular play, they don't have enough time to make the comeback. So forever, Dante Hightower, I love you, buddy.
You should. Did you ever watch Swamp Kings on Netflix?
No.
He's got a nice presence in that Florida locker room. But I will say that game when the second half started and the Falcons just went 3-and-out, 3-and-out, three. I was like, this is bad. Because if you're not getting a first down and you got Tom Brady on the other side, God help you, man. You got to keep him off the field. Like, you don't have to score, but can you at least take 5 minutes off the clock?
Here's the thing, because of the fact Brady threw the pick six, the long halftime, the Patriots got the ball to start the second half. The Falcons had in real time, it was like 37 minutes between actually playing offense, or 30 or 42 or something like that. And the other crazy thing about that is that down 28-3, how many teams would have just folded? That's why Tom Brady's the GOAT right there.
Well, I told you that's when I came around and I was like, I accept it. Because at that point, if you're arguing it, you're just, I know this is an overused word, but you're just a hater. You have there's no factual evidence to the reason why. It's just it's like we talked about earlier, you're mad at winning. I don't like it when people win. I don't like it when people are successful. You don't have to be their biggest fan and go buy their jersey and want their autograph, but just,
appreciate it.
That's all.
Respect it.
The couple games that I like to talk about when it comes to the Super Bowl.
That game is also probably the difference between Matt Ryan making it to the Hall of Fame and not making it.
Even with an MVP?
Because he's on the borderline.
Even with an MVP?
That was his MVP season. If he finishes it, they win the Super Bowl. So he's a league MVP, a Super Bowl MVP. I think he probably makes the Hall of Fame.
So you don't think he's in?
No.
It's so hard to look at current players in the Hall of Fame because so many things have changed, like stats and whatnot. Like, it just revolves every year into like a new norm.
You listen to Dion, and he talks about this Super Bowl week every year, media row, everybody has him on. And he said, it's become the Hall of Good.
I mean,
they're letting a lot of guys in that shouldn't be there.
They always put 4 people in, right?
Yep.
Like, no matter what, it's what it seems like.
Yeah.
Where baseball, for example, and basketball is a lot like football, right? They just put anybody in.
Yes.
Like, oh, you averaged 18 and 11. You never won a title and you had 2 All-Star games, whatever. You're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I just know baseball, for as much as we hate sometimes, at least they can stick to some principles and be like, nope, we're only putting 2 bastards in. Sorry about your luck. Maybe next year you got 10 years, pal. NFL, it's just like, who's getting in.
Yeah.
And
they sort of
I made that conversation last week when I was like, Terrell Davis, like, that's a little questionable.
Yeah. And I mean, Terrell Davis, he had a great run, but it was short.
It was. And
how do you put him in?
And the other thing is, how many other running backs did you plug and play in that same system and they turned out to be?
To me, that's why you degrade his ability to be in the Hall of Fame, was because you had Clinton Portis and
Olandis Gary.
Yes.
Mike Anderson.
Anybody in that system ran for 1,500 yards.
It was that zone / block, and they just were able to.
That was a Mike Shanahan system. We now have the Kyle Shanahan system. You put CMC in that system, and all of a sudden he went Super Bowl MVP.
All right. You said a Super Bowl you hated. Speaking of the Broncos, it wasn't the Broncos. They got dump trucked by the 49ers a couple times. But you hated the Chargers. Stan Humphries, Natron Means, Rodney Harrison, Junior Seau getting the break speed off of them by Steve Young and the Niners. And I feel like Jerry Rice set the receiving yards in the Super Bowl in that game, maybe.
He might have set receiving yards. Steve Young set the touchdown pass record.
6?
Yep.
That's why I didn't think they only scored 49. I thought they had like 58 or something.
Well, one of the things I hated about that game was the fact it wasn't competitive from the opening kick. It was a blowout from start to finish. The Chargers that year are a team that we should love because they're one of the few teams in NFL history to start 0-4 and actually make the playoffs. All right. They finished 11-5 after starting 0-4. That shit don't happen. Bobby Ross is their head coach.
Bobby Ross. I forgot all about him.
He coached the Lions. But they play the AFC Championship game. That should have been a Pittsburgh Steelers, Bill Cowher versus San Francisco matchup.
That would have been interesting. And then, they beat Dan Marino and the Dolphins in the playoffs that year too. So I mean, they deserve to be there, but the Niners were good. The NFC was really dominant during those 90s years. It wasn't until late when you had the Broncos go back to back, and because the Packers were good, but that back to back Broncos team, I think is super underrated. I think it's one of the best teams ever to play in the NFL. They were super dominant. Going back to the Terrell Davis thing, 2,000-yard rusher. John Elway was at the end of his prime, but he was still John Elway.
Yep.
Rod Smith, Christian, Ed McCaffrey, Shannon Sharp, the defensive guys like Neil Smith and Steve Atwater. And I mean, the offensive line, I feel like, had 3 Hall of Famers on it. Like they were pretty damn good.
Mark Schlereth, who's become a voice in the media.
Todd Nalen. I mean, they had some good guys. Howard Griffith, the fullback, would crack people's heads. Like they were a good squad. They were really good.
So I have 2 thoughts right now. One of my favorite nicknames of all time back to the Chargers is Junior Seau. I call him Junior Say Fucking Ow because he hit you so hard. And those 2 Denver Broncos teams, the second year, I think they started like 12 or 13-0.
Oh, yeah.
Lost right at the end of the season. They played the Jaguars, Tom Coughlin, AFC Championship game, ended up beating them. That was the start of what Coughlin would do with young teams and be able to
maximize their potential.
Yes.
Like accelerate that growth process.
Yeah.
Yeah, those Jacksonville teams. Hey, that was back before we had the 4 divisions. And as a Bengals fan, the Jaguars were in at the time the AFC Central. And I hated them. Because they were just them and the Titans. They were just hard-nosed teams that just found ways to win. And it's never when you were the Bengals in the 90s, the last thing you wanted to do was play a team that had character and was tough. And those damn teams always were.
So as a Patriots fan, I'm thinking the Super Bowls, you just brought it up outside of my realm. My team wasn't in it. That was it 1999 greatest show on turf, Rams, Titans.
2000. That's Steve
McNair.
That's my favorite Super Bowl. That's my favorite Super Bowl. And I know a lot of people aren't going to like that. But
were the Rams up 16-0 before they mounted that comeback, Titans?
I can't recall exactly, but what I remember about the game was a couple things. Like, first of all, the Rams and the Titans, they don't belong there.
Yep.
And like people were talking about how this isn't even going to be a viewed Super Bowl, but then the greatest show on turf, that got a little bit of traction, and they had a lot of talent there. Marshall Faulk, Kurt Warner's story, like that's what got people to tune in, because similar to the Brock Purdy story, you had this
Corey Holt, Isaac Bruce.
Yeah. Azakeem, remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Ricky Prohl was on that team. But the thing was, the Titans, they were just a good team. They weren't beating the brakes off people, but they were solid. And Dick Vermeil is the coach. Jeff Fisher made a career off of this season for a long, long time. But what I remember was it was the first Super Bowl, because we were born in the early 80s. So the 80s Super Bowls as a kid, like you didn't enjoy really any of them. And I vaguely remember.
You don't remember them, and it's a good thing because they were almost all blowouts.
I vaguely remember my first Super Bowl memory is Joe Montana defeating the Bengals. John Candy's in the end zone, all that. I hated that. And as a kid, I would like find replays and convince myself of like things that happened that the refs should have called. Like that's a bad way to start being a fan of football. But that one, I appreciate the game, but I hated it because of how it happened. But then like the Cowboys were murdering people. You had the Norwood game, the Giants, Bills. That's, I think, a top 5 Super Bowl easily.
I agree. And it was one of the few during a stretch of Super Bowls that weren't that good. You had Niners, Bengals, which you're talking about, that Super Bowl, but there was a lot of blowouts from 85, 86 till 93, 94.
Yeah. And then, the Cowboys, they played the Bills close one year, but then they blew them out 2 years. We talked about the Niners and the Chargers. The Broncos pretty handedly won. The Packers did a pretty good job with theirs. So you get to
the second one was a 7-point game.
Yeah, it was closer. Wasn't that the one where they told
Brett Favre and the Packers had the ball under 2 minutes left, down 31-24. Came down to a 4th down. Favre wasn't able to complete a pass. Broncos deal it out.
Buddy, you
yes.
all right? You need a drink? Do we need to take a break?
Nah,
He just powered through.
dual powers.
You have the quietest hiccups ever. I hope people can hear them.
I'm trying.
You got one coming?
Trying to be discreet.
Don't be discreet. Just let it happen. Everyone knows you have hiccups now, so it'll be okay.
All right.
But
well,
I just
so
got
here's the thing.
no. Let me get it out. I got to tell you, the reason why I liked that game so much, the greatest show on turf and the Titans, was that was the first one that was close, and just the way it happened was Kurt Warner, who in every Super Bowl he ever played in, had a knack of scoring, inside of 2 minutes, but always closer to the 2 minute mark than the 0 mark. So he always left a little time on the table for the other team. And Steve McNair had the drive of his life running around. I'll never forget. It was, I think Kevin Carter. I don't want to put disrespect on somebody. It was rather DeMarco Farr or Kevin Carter that played on the Rams. And they're coming out of the game, hands on the hips. And Dick Vermeil's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm tired." He's like, "It's the Super Bowl. How are you tired of the Super Bowl?" But like, if you watch it, McNair's running around like crazy, buying time, and you get to play at the end. The first drive was where Warner hit Isaac Bruce down the sideline, and they score. And then the Titans go on this drive to try to take the lead and win the game. And Kevin Dyson 1 yard short, like you weren't even sure, like you had to wait, like he's down, right? Like he didn't get in. This is how it ends. I was in disbelief. I was like, that's how I was in shock that the game ended like that.
So I got two questions for you. When the Titans tied the score at 16, was it on the minus or plus side when Kurt Warner hits that touchdown pass?
There's that hiccup. I feel like they were around midfield.
It was above 2 minutes. It was an 80-yard touchdown pass.
Was it? Okay. So it was a
first play, or it was one of the second play of the drive after they tied it up. He throws a deep ball. Go look at the replay.
It's down the right sideline.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't where he beat a guy.
He kind of underthrows.
Yep.
And Bruce has to stop. So, that's that one. But to me, my
other question for you is Kevin Dyson comes up just short. Tackles Kevin Dyson.
Mike Smith?
Mike Jones.
Nobody knows him. That, like, you should have gave him Super Bowl MVP. I don't care if that was the only tackle he had.
A yard short.
You give him.
Dyson hits the ground, immediately pops up, and then tries to extend the ball like he scored.
But what's entertaining with Kurt Warner, and I think it's part of the reason why he ends up in the Hall of Fame, was, Super Bowls, you didn't have a lot of passing yards. Typically, teams came out a little flat. It took them a minute, and usually defense had a lot to do with it. Warner throws for over 300 yards, and you're like, well, that was pretty good. Runs it back the next year, loses to New England, and that's probably one of your first.
That was 2 years later. Yeah, because the next Super Bowl was Ravens Giants.
That was the year before.
No, 99 was Titans. Right.
Nope, I disagree.
2000 was Ravens Giants.
You're wrong.
That was the Jason Sehorn pants falling down. 2001 was now head coach Mike Martz and the Patriots.
I don't think that's right.
I'm right. You're wrong.
Man, the Rams were after the Ravens?
Yes.
But not back to back.
Nope.
I have to look this up right now because I am beside myself.
The other thing about Kurt Warner was
you're right. Damn it. I feel like the Rams went back to back for some reason.
Until Brady's second half of his Super Bowl runs, the top three passing yardage games in Super Bowl history all belonged to Kurt Warner.
They did.
He was the first quarterback to throw for 400 yards in the Super Bowl.
So to me, my second favorite Super Bowl of all time was the Cardinals and Steelers. And I hate the Steelers, but that game,
it's got the two greatest plays in Super Bowl history. James Harrison's interception,
running it back,
90+ yard run back. They had him. I love James Harrison. You look at that replay. There's so many different times. Larry Fitzgerald could have tackled him.
Almost got him.
So there's a touchdown in a game that ends up as a one possession game. And to what you just said earlier with Kurt Warner always scoring too early,
he hit Larry Fitzgerald 50+ yards down the middle of the field. And they leave that time on. I don't know when Pittsburgh scores the final touchdown, but just you can go look at the still image. You don't even need the video of Santonio Holmes planting his toes. Like, this is early on.
That was the original toe drag sway.
And I remember the replays. Like, instant replay hadn't been around that long. and like that took forever.
The other thing that was really cool about that play was Roethlisberger hit him in the far right part of the end zone. The play before, he had him more open in the left side of the end zone.
And didn't see him.
Threw a bad ball.
Oh, I thought I didn't even see him in that one. I can't remember exactly, but I do remember
that is one of the greatest catches in football.
Well, in the throw, he high pointed it where only he could get it. Like it was in traffic. It was, and I hate that because I hate the Steelers. But it was you got to put respect on it. It was a great game.
One of the great drives in that's a Montana drive.
It is. Are you sure you're okay? How long do hiccups usually last for you?
Well, I felt like they'd be gone by now. That's why I said we should power through it. But now they're not leaving.
I don't know if there's any real like old wives' tales on how to get rid of the hiccups, if that works or not.
They don't. I've tried.
I don't know. I don't know what causes it, or I don't know what hiccups really are. I just know it's something we all get. I'm not gonna act like I'm a doctor.
We can take a short break or power through it. It's
I tell you, I'm kind of enjoying the spontaneity. I think some people might think you're just having an epileptic fit or something. But we got more Super Bowls I want to get through real quick. Just we talk about the greatest games. Some of the ones lately haven't been great. I feel like the Chiefs-Eagles game was really good.
That was really good. But 38-35 finish, an entertaining fourth quarter.
Kind of anticlimactic though. So I think it takes away from it, but it was good. The Norwood miss, because what people forget is Scott Norwood was a really good kicker. And for him to push that one right, that was
it was
you felt
47 like it was a 47-yarder on grass. He was a turf kicker who didn't have the greatest leg. And that thing was wide right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And that Bills team should have won that game by 10 points.
He had the leg.
Yep. You ever look at Thurman Thomas stats for that game? He's got 200 total yards. Bill Belichick, defense coordinator for the Giants, they come up with a plan and they're like, all right, as long as we don't let Jim Kelly run wild, we got a chance to win this game. You know what the time possession was in that game?
I have no idea.
The Giants possessed the ball for almost 42 minutes.
Really?
Yep. In the 18 minutes the Bills had the ball, Thurman Thomas, who was the running back, had 200 total yards.
Thurman Thomas is slept on when every time we ever have a discussion about like greatest running backs, we never say Thurman Thomas. Why?
Because he didn't win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but we talk about Barry Sanders. But
wow.
I know that's different.
Barry was electric.
But Thurman Thomas was like that. One of those. He was like a better version of Roger Craig. I feel like where he could catch it a little bit, but man, he was.
Thurman Thomas and Barry Sanders were in the same backfield.
Oh, I know. We're not even making that connection yet. Imagine scheming for that Oklahoma State. Should have been a cowboy.
Dude,
stop right there so you can get your hiccups fixed. Are you good?
No.
You want to stop or you want to keep going?
Oh, I'm fine with keep going.
Okay. I didn't mean to ruin our Philly harmonic special there.
I feel like Thurman Thomas gets slept on in a really poor way because had they won one Super Bowl, I think that Thurman Thomas is remembered kind of like Marcus Allen is, but because they never did, he gets forgotten. He was one of the great receiving threats as a running back from the 80s and 90s. Guys today, Marshall Faulk, LaDainian Tomlinson, Austin Eckler for today, Christian McCaffrey. Thurman Thomas was that guy 30 years ago.
I feel like we start to forget about some of these guys though, because now the way the game has evolved, it's nothing for a running back like CMC or Tony Pollard, even just these random guys that can catch the ball to the backfield, where before that was like you had a third down back. And I know you still kind of
talk about Barry Sanders and Thurman Thomas sharing a backfield. Look at their careers in college and to the pros. Thomas was a runner and a receiver. Barry Sanders was a runner.
Yeah. But if you hit Barry with a little screen sometimes, you never knew what he could do.
I love me some Thurman Thomas. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the history of the league.
The Bills team should have won a Super Bowl just for legacy purposes because the no huddle kind of became a thing because of them. Thurman Thomas.
They had the K gun. Jim Kelly.
They did. But and Jim Kelly, what a journey that was to get to the NFL after playing in the USFL and all that. I don't know. I feel bad for the Bills, man. They're like the Lions. It's sad stuff. But all right, what about other games you really liked? Any other ones that stand out that we haven't mentioned?
Well,
I mean, we briefly touched on the 9/11 game with the Patriots, and that was when the dynasty started.
To me,
that's got to be your favorite.
Yeah, it is.
It should be.
The birth of Tom Brady.
That and 28-3.
28-3 is my favorite game because I'm at my house. I invited Ryan, and at the time it was his girlfriend Lena. Then they got married later. They came over. They had wings. It was me, them, and the kids. Down 28-3, game never turned off. I'm watching every play. I'm into it. I got Tom Brady, motherfuckers. We got a chance.
What about the Seattle one with New England? Because that was a hell of a game.
Seattle, New England, if I had to rank them, is the greatest Super Bowl in the history.
You like that? You're putting that one up.
Yeah.
That's your mantle.
You had that Seahawks Legion Boom defense was the best run on defense is 69 through 71 Purple People Eaters, Minnesota Vikings, as far as points allowed and yards. In that game, the biggest deficit in that game was 24-14 going to the fourth quarter. Tom Brady leaves 2 touchdown drives against the best defense in 30 fucking years to take a 28-24 lead. And then when that happens, what had happened in other games, miracle catches, the helmet catch. What happens? Down the sideline. Deflected up in the air. Oh my God, he caught it. Like that game had everything.
You're getting choked up about it, or is that still the hiccup?
Still the hiccup. But for viewing pleasure, if I had to rate it, I would rate that as the best one. You had Brady, 4 touchdowns, 4 different receivers. Russell Wilson had a good game. Marshawn Lynch had a good game. You had 2 Hall of Fame coaches. You were playing the Seahawks, were defending Super Bowl champions. I feel like, to me, that game, viewable, rewatchable.
The only thing I hate, I anytime people have a sports stake, and it's so matter of fact, just like they don't treat it as opinion. They just treat it as fact. And I know everybody says it was the dumbest thing to throw the ball when you have Marshawn Lynch, but you still had another down after that.
Yep.
Right.
You're not anticipating turning it over.
Right. You're thinking worst case it's incomplete because it's a slant. You're just firing it in there quick. And we'll talk about how that play kind of unraveled here in a second. But what happens if you're doing second guessing? What happens if you give it to Lynch and he fumbles on the 2-yard line? Then you're like, what, you ran him too hard, or you were relying too much on him. And the Seahawks had ran that play so effectively during the season. I think I saw the stat where they scored like 6 or 7 times on that exact play, so much to the point to where that play was on the radar
for the Patriots.
Yeah, Belichick knew what it was, and they practiced. There's video of this. There's video of him telling Malcolm Butler, when they line up and do this, and this guy goes in motion, wherever he says, that this is the play they're running, and you need to just jump the route.
Yeah, you got to hit it and become the receiver.
Yep. And my God, like that's exactly what happened. So is it really just the worst play call in NFL history, or did Belichick just outmaneuver Carroll with coaching?
He's outmaneuvered. Here's the reason why. Other than that play call, there's over 50 seconds left after Marshawn Lynch gets tackled. I'm sorry for the hiccups. It just is what it is.
It's part of the show now.
I thought they would have went away. Otherwise, I'd have said take a break. I don't know.
World record for longest hiccup.
No, we're about to pass it. Guinness. Man.
How does a beer company create world records?
What I was going to say is that
sorry,
Belichick looks at the other sideline and he can tell that Seattle's confused with what they're going to do. So rather than call a timeout, which you normally do in that situation, make sure you have time. He's like, they're not quite sure what they're doing. Let's see what they bring out. We're ready.
They were more ready than they were.
Yeah.
That's what happened. All right.
They go big and it's go Malcolm go, where you run goal line with 3 DBs. And then you can see Brandon Browner tell Malcolm before the play, as soon as they line up, he's He's doing one of these, and he shoots the gap. Boom.
They knew. That's good, coach. That's why you get a week off.
Oh, one of the other really cool things after that is that we were down on the 2-yard line, so you can't snap it and take a knee. You gotta try and sneak it.
Oh, they were almost
and
in the end zone.
Michael Bennett shoots it hard, and him and Gronk get into almost near fist fight in the end zone afterwards.
I remember that. Flags were flying everywhere. That gave him breathing room finally. But
yeah.
What about old Super Bowls? Like it's easy for us to reminisce about late 80s, 90s and beyond. But we're discounting the first 25 Super Bowls essentially.
So this is an old one, but I think that Steelers, Packers, Rodgers won Super Bowl is like 32-29. That's a really good game.
That was the Rodgers, that's his shining moments.
And I also really think that the 35-31 Steelers beat the Cowboys 35-31.
70s.
With Staubach at quarterback.
That's the game.
That's
with
Jackie Smith.
That's the Lynn Swan catch game too, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, that's
Jackie Smith tied in for the Cowboys, wide open in the end zone. Staubach hits him in the gut. He kind of has to slide to catch, but hits him in the gut. He drops it.
Yep.
They lose 35-31.
At the time, I guess when you watch that had to be the greatest game you ever seen.
Yep.
I mean, it just had everything because first of all, you had the two teams of the decade. Right? Because this was, what year was it? It was in the 70s.
This would have been 77?
Was it that late?
70. Man, this was on the second side of it.
But I mean, so now
this was the second repeat for the Steelers.
You're way established into it where these are America's teams. Yep. I mean, I know Dallas is, but Pittsburgh was right there. And you finally got that show. But up until then, some of the Super Bowls, I mean, you got to put the Namath game up there. I mean, that's Super Bowl 3.
But Joe Namath is the most overrated player in the history of the NFL.
I'm starting to soften on that. I've not been, a big vocalist on this, and I'll tell you why is as you start looking and what made me think about this is how the game's changed and we measure quarterbacks differently. Like just because you throw for 25 touchdowns don't mean shit now. 25 touchdowns, you might be fighting for your job next year. I mean, that doesn't guarantee you anything. But back then,
Joe Namath had more interceptions and touchdowns in his career.
Yeah, a lot of people did back then.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Johnny, you didn't.
No, but Johnny U. But Joe Namath, though, I mean, for the time period, this is a defensive era. Go look at Ken Anderson, who played in the 70s, and you're like, there's no way this guy.
Dude, he had really good numbers.
But if you go look at where he ranks all time, you would scoff and be like, just shut up. He doesn't belong in the conversation. But if you go look at how many times he led the league in completion percentage or yards or touchdowns or turnover ratio or whatever, he was always in that conversation. And they were playing the Steelers, that steel curtain defense, twice a year.
Yep.
And giving them a run for their money sometimes. I'm just saying, as time goes by, you got to recognize the eras for what they were. And the NFL and the NBA are the two hardest sports to do that in because the game's changed so much over time.
Well, just look at Terry Bradshaw winning 4 Super Bowls and now he gets discredited and it was all the defense and it kind of just like the Joe Namath deal where, it's lore is where he is. No, it isn't. So I see where you're coming from.
He had these moments, but there's a lot of guys that I like. Fran Tarkenton, he's another one he's a Hall of Famer, but he threw a shit ton of interceptions. I mean, it happened.
Fran Tarkenton was Brett Favre before Brett Favre.
He was, and he was on Minnesota, not Green Bay. But I'm just saying, I think some of these old we need to do a show on that one time. Let's just go down the history of quarterbacks before 1980 and just see if we think any of them are worth a damn, or were they just plumbers?
Okay, as long as we get to do
Wyatt Tittle.
Yep. You knew where I was going.
It's too predictable. But I think this year's Super Bowl, I hope it was a good game. I hope the Niners are the champion by the time everybody's listening to this. If you have a prediction, just to kind of wrap up, where do you think this kind of breaks down? Do you think this is in the top third of best Super Bowls, middle of the pack, or bottom third?
I'm going to say middle of the pack.
I think it's going to be an ugly game. I don't know why. The Chiefs People think Mahomes, it's been a defensive team all year. San Francisco has a good defense, hasn't always played great defense. They're going to rise up and start playing better. I think it's a low scoring affair. I would say the under. Now you're listening to this and it's probably like 63-40 or something. Watch it.
The under is like 47.5. So 24-20, you got the under.
In closing, let's wrap up with this because I don't think I got this out. I've maybe I said what my least favorite Super Bowl was. I've had a change of heart. I do have one I hate more than any other game, but I want to know if you have one that you just want to kind of railroad real quick before we wrap up.
Well, I got two that come to mind. We already discussed this one, but Colts Bears.
That's a terrible game.
Chargers Niners, and
That's
then
terrible.
the other one that comes to mind for me is just being a completely horrible game is Broncos Seahawks.
Yeah, that was bad.
It was supposed to be this build up, and it's great defense,
Panthers,
great
Broncos
offense,
was bad too around that same time.
Yep.
Now the game might have been okay, but to me, the Super Bowl I hate more than anything is the lights out game.
Ravens Niners.
I hated that because it was two different games.
Yes,
it was bullshit. The game was on hiatus so long because they couldn't figure out how to get the lights to work all of a sudden. And now everybody's wondering, like we joke all the time about, is the NFL fixed? Like when shit like that happens, you kind of think it is. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't the Niners just cruising?
Yep.
And
no, the Ravens were, and Niners made the comeback.
And what was it, a 37-minute delay or something like that?
Yeah, and it was a brother Super Bowl, and there was a big thing because they talked about Beyonce doing a halftime show, flashing the Illuminati, and then all of a sudden the lights didn't work, and it was in New Orleans, and they've had Super Bowls there before, so how can the lights not work this time when they work fine every other time?
It was ridiculous.
Yep.
And I hated that, like, you didn't really know who the better team was because you could have played that game 10 more times and you probably get way different outcomes because how many times are you going to have two half times?
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Yeah. That was one of my memorable duds.
I mean, when you're watching it, you know what it kind of reminded me of is when we had the DeMar Hamlin game. You know, it was just like you never saw anything like that before.
Yep.
I'm just like, what the hell's happening? It's not nearly as traumatic for an individual, but watching that, I'm like, how is this your creme de la creme, your paragon of virtue of sporting events? And this is what you're going to do.
You can't turn the lights on?
Oh, come on.
That's why they should have the game in Vegas every year.
We're going to play it at daytime now, from now on. No more night games.
They did that. They did that when it first started.
Out west.
Yeah. They play in Pasadena and the game started at noon.
Electricity costs money. Played at Wrigley Field. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
They didn't get night games to win.
That one does bother me.
2015, I can't remember. It was something stupid. Oh, shit.
So I have a question for you. Should the Monday after the Super Bowl be a national holiday? It's the single largest sporting event in our country yearly.
I mean, New Year's Day is a holiday, but we don't really care about New Year's Day. We care about New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
So it's similar. Well, technically, the Super Bowl is not even a holiday. So can we start with just getting that as a holiday? Can we declare that football is the national sport? And can we go ahead and get some PTO for everybody, some paid time off?
Yeah, Super Bowl Sunday is now a national holiday, which means you honor it on Monday, so we go back to work on Tuesday.
It's almost on the level of Christmas. First of all, everyone that's like doing their grocery shopping right now, God bless you. Like the most anxiety I've ever had being in a supermarket was at noon on Super Bowl Sunday a few years ago, and I was at a Wegmans. Shout out to Wegmans, amazing grocery chain in the Northeast. You know, they actually send their deli people to France to learn about cheese.
Did not know that.
You do that for a $20 an hour deli person because you want them to be able to give you the right cheese.
I like it.
That's good shit, pal. But regardless, I was in there and there were so many people. It felt like 10 Black Fridays, and I've worked retail a long time. I know what Black Friday feels like. It never felt like that. I just wanted to get out. I don't even remember what I bought. I didn't go in and get what I came for. I just grabbed whatever I could get and got out with my life, and I was happy. But I will never, ever, ever go shopping for anything at a grocery store on Super Bowl Sunday.
So Super Bowl Sunday shopping, were you Sinbad or Arnold?
I was the guy getting trampled on by Sinbad and Arnold.
Okay.
Why you got to throw a Jingle All the Way reference?
I'm just saying that's the first place my mind went when you said that.
Did you ever watch Sinbad in Shazam?
Oh, Shaq.
No,
Man.
that was Kazam.
Oh, that was Kazam. Nope, I haven't seen it.
No, you haven't seen it?
Nope.
You know what I'm talking about at all?
I do. I do.
What do you know about
I feel like I've seen the whole movie and I can't remember watching it.
That's a lot of people.
Yes.
That's most people, actually. Nobody's actually seen it, but everyone thinks they have.
It's just like Nickelback. Nobody listens, but somehow they're popular.
We're going to listen to some Nickelback and play NBA Jam later. Do you have a favorite Nickelback song? Why don't we get them at the Super Bowl? But you know what? They're Canadian, so they're not coming because you done pissed off Canada.
Well, the maple syrup.
Did you see the picture I had of Drake hugging the moose?
Yes. And I think of Drake in the layup line for Kentucky, and he can't make a he can't hit the rim.
Hey, some people were born to be fans.
Yep.
Some people were born to be ballers. And he's gonna have to settle for the fan. But all right, man. Well, let's go do something else. I'm done doing a podcast. I hope everybody enjoys the Super Bowl. We appreciate all the support you guys have been giving us. Podcast listens are up. Social media's on fire right now. We're actually making some pretty good money. Maybe we'll get some better equipment. Maybe we can do some glamour shots. You know, Biggie's looking like Dan Campbell. Maybe we'll get him some hair transplants and have it, get the lettuce to match a little bit. You want to do that? Or can we just cure your hiccups for next show?
If you've listened this long, I feel like the hiccups are now gone.
Are they gone? We can end the show because the hiccups are officially gone. What was the cure for hiccups?
I just outlasted them.
They
died before me.
Perseverance is the cure for hiccups. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the Super Bowl. We'll see you sometime later in the week. We're still looking for some great guests. We got some amazing guest lineups coming. We got former NFL cheerleaders that might have been at some Super Bowls. We have something about the Savannah Bananas on the horizon. We got are you going to Cincinnati with us for the game?
I am not.
You're not. So the formerly Mr. Brown, who's may or may not be still with us. We're going to Cincinnati, meeting a lot of big league ball players out there, sitting in the suite. That's going to be exciting. And I'm trying to think what else we got out there. I got to talk to this the one NFL player that was on Survivor that's coming on the show here in a few weeks.
Oh,
I think we got him at the end of the month.
Wasn't he a former NFL quarterback?
No, he was a lineman. He was a lineman.
Okay,
but it's not. If you're looking for Jay Cutler to come on the show, we do not have him booked yet.
Jay Cutler is amazing. Hey, I'm a millionaire. Okay, Kristen, when we get divorced, you want this, you want this. That's cool. I'm freezing my bank accounts, freezing your bank accounts. Like
Jay Cutler, if you're listening, we want you. We need you to come on the We Don't Know Sports podcast and share some life stories with us. But until next time, everyone enjoy your week. Make sure you check out everything social media, We Don't Know Sports. You can get to our website at wdksports.us. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media. Like all the stuff we put out there. And you can send us some money on Patreon if you feel like it. But we're going to keep trying to bring you good content. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.